Are you tired of trying to change your spouse? Stop trying. Instead, commit to changing these five behaviors and you will start to see the change you so desire in your spouse. In this video, I will share three of the five behaviors that are currently destroying your marriage and how to fix them. In the next video, which will be part two, I will share two more. So be sure to subscribe. And towards the end of this video, I will share which behavior I believe you should work on first to help influence your spouse the most into wanting to change. And the good news is you can finally stop trying to change your spouse. Welcome back to the all new Total Marriage Transformation channel. And I'm Dr. Delroy Fredericks of Hope Conquers Marriage Enrichment, where I help couples transform their marriage spiritually and personally. Now, truth be told, I've tried to change my spouse and failed. You've tried to change your spouse and failed. Why did I fail? Why did you fail? Well, because the only person I can truly change is me. The same is true with you. The only person you can truly change is you. So, as we are going through these behaviors, I need you to focus on you only. Don't say, my spouse does that. Or, you know what? I wish my spouse could listen to this video. And actually, they could. Send them the video. Share the video with as many couples as you can. Because I want to give others the same opportunity to examine the behaviors that I will now talk about. However, changing these behaviors will take some self-awareness and some intentional effort on your part. And quite frankly, sometimes additional support like counseling or coaching may be needed. The first behavior I want to talk about that is currently destroying your relationship is criticism. Are you a critical person when it comes to your spouse? Do you tend to focus on their mistakes, the things that they're not doing right, or to your liking, or to your standard? And when you do these behavior, do you notice that sometimes it fuels anger or resentment in your spouse or from your spouse? The truth is, too much criticism in any relationship is only gonna push your spouse away. And it's gonna put them in a place where they're going to hold on to some behaviors you have been talking to them about as a way to say, you know what? I always feel so criticized. I'm not going to do this or change this behavior for you. It's a bad place to be. I know and I understand. The best way to change criticism is by first recognizing the why. Why are you so critical? Is it because you're actually frustrated about something? Is it because of some personal insecurities that you may have? Is it because of some unmet expectations, some things that you were kind of expecting out of the relationship or out of your spouse? And because these expectations aren't met, you just become critical? Because if you can truly recognize why, then we can also be able to now do the next thing that I'm going to ask you to do. Because based on the situation and the scenario, next, I want you to be intentional about choosing your words wisely. One of the ways that I believe that can help you to stop coming off as a critical person is if you use I statements instead of you statements. For example, you can say, honey, I feel concern when fill in the blanks. Instead of saying something like, you know what, honey, you always or never does fill in the blanks. You have to watch your words and you have to speak life over your spouse. Since we know the Bible teaches that life and death are in the power of the tongue. The next thing I want you to do is to be more intentional about focusing on the positives in your spouse. And here's the big one. I need to practice gratitude. As you start on focusing on the positive, actually express it to your partner. Tell them. And when you stop this behavior, or at least minimize it, I guarantee you, your spouse will start to notice. Behavior number 2, defensiveness. As I speak to many wives, the complaint is every time I try to talk to him about something, he gets defensive. Then I speak to husbands, and guess what? The husbands say, every time I try to speak to her about something, she gets defensive. And many don't know that when one becomes defensive, you automatically stop listening to your spouse, and there lies the issue. You automatically stop caring about their concerns. You go into what I call protective mode, and then sometimes you turn it around on your spouse. I'm guilty of that. Don't look at me that way. You're guilty of that too. This destroys communication and needs to be changed. The good news is, I believe that the best way you can change defensiveness is by first recognizing what triggers you into defense mode. Now, these could be specific words, like if your spouse says something, you get defensive. I mean, I just give the example of using I and you statements, and I said, when you begin a statement with you, that word alone, beginning a statement with you always or you never, quite frankly, it triggers me. And I'm quite sure that's a trigger word for many of you. Why? Because if we can recognize these triggers, we will be more prepared to be able to say, you know what? I am not going to go into defensive mode. Next, I'm going to need you, after you recognize your trigger words, I'm going to need you to chill. Okay. I'm going to need you to calm down. Just pause and take a deep breath. Because this is going to help to calm the nervous system and prevent reactive responses. Then I need you to practice this technique called reflective listening or active reflective listening. What is this? This is when you listen to your partner without interrupting, without formulating in your head what you will say next, just kind of waiting for them to stop talking so you can unleash what you've been formulating in your head without walking away, without rolling your eyes or sucking your teeth, without any attitude, just genuinely trying to hear your partner out by listening. So that's the first thing I want you to do. Listen. And then I want you to try to focus on just understanding what you just heard, understanding their emotions, understanding their intentions. Don't jump to conclusions. If the conclusion that you jump into is a negative conclusion, ask a little bit more questions in terms of what your spouse or partner meant by what they said. When you are able to summarize what you would have heard and summarize it in a way of what you understood your partner said, and your partner says, yes, that is what I'm saying, you may say something like, I hear that you're upset because I was late, and that made me feel unimportant. You notice I'm using the I statement here, because that is going to help them to see that you are truly trying to understand them. Then next, and this is big, I need you to take responsibility for whatever it is that you've done or whatever part that you have done wrong in the situation, without blaming your spouse, without attacking your spouse. And you can probably say something like, honey, you were right. I was late. I'm sorry. That's it. That ends defensiveness. Now, your spouse might be surprised when you start to respond like this, and then you share this video with them. So be sure to subscribe. Next, I need you to understand that if you can truly practice active or reflective listening, this not only helps to overcome defensiveness, it actually improves communication in the relationship. When you stop being a defensive person, I guarantee it, your partner will notice. The third behavior is deception. What do I mean? Yes, it does sound like what it sounds like. You lie a lot. I had a pastor friend that would say, you drink a lot of lie soup. You mislead your partner. You are deceptive in what you say and what you do. You manipulate situations to get what you want. And deception over time destroys trust in the relationship. So, how can you overcome deception? Well, only possible way will take some effort. It's going to take honesty. It's going to take commitment. And it's going to take some consistency. Because if you've been lying a lot, you're going to have to be telling the truth a lot to change that dynamics. Because as with any behavior, changing deception requires you to do self-reflection and to try to understand the why, even in this behavior. Why do you lie? Is it fear of conflict? I don't want to go into a back and forth, so I'm just going to lie. Is it insecurities of some sort that was never addressed, whether it's prior to the relationship or because of what's happening in this relationship? And is it a desire to protect your partner's feeling? I've heard couples say, I lie because I didn't want to hurt them. I wanted to protect their feelings. Because once you understand the why, you are going to have to come to a place where you will have to start taking responsibility for your lies. And especially if you are confronted by your partner, accepting responsibility is the first step to rebuilding trust. Then, after you accept responsibility, you will have to commit to honesty. Practice transparency in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your actions. And if you are a believer, you will have to renew your mind. You will have to dig into the scripture. You will have to memorize some verses when it comes to transparency and honesty and understand what God says about lies. That is why we have to be able to not only recognize this behavior, but be able to come to a place of changing the dynamics of this behavior. And another reason I've noticed that sometimes couples will lie is because there is no safe space for communication in the relationship, where either you or your partner can express their feelings without fear and without judgment. And I know this part here is hard for many couples when there is little or no emotional safety to begin with. And that's one of the reasons why we created a brand new virtual and in-person communication building workshop called Let's Talk, where you can discover how to create emotional safety, communicate to resolve conflicts, and much, much more to help you to connect with your partner on a deeper level. I want to invite you to be a part of this next workshop. Check the link in the description. Or, as usual, you can activate your free trial to explore the Marriage Enrichment Institute to go deeper on these topics and to get live access to coaching calls and to events that we do. Now, before we go, I did promise you that I'm going to tell you which of the three behaviors I believe, if you commit to first, will change. Well, actually, you comment in the comment section which behavior do you think will influence the biggest change in your spouse. Which one of the three behaviors you believe your spouse will see and be like, wow, I got to change for her. I got to change for him because I'm seeing such a big change. I don't want to be left behind when it comes to change. Comment, because my thoughts are this. And from my experience, and from over 18 years of being married, I have seen when you become a less critical person, it influences the fastest pace for change in another person. Now, this can be different based on couples in general, but when a person sees you are noticing more of their positives, it motivates them to do better. So, if you have found this video of value, subscribe and look for part 2 of this video, which will be next week. And if you want to enrich your marriage even more, be sure to continue to watch this video now. I will see you in the next video.